Something amazing has happened. Everybody's talking about the Fed. The Federal Reserve used to be this giant elephant in the room that nobody really talked about, with the exception of Ron Paul, of course. Things have changed. It's become mainstream not just to criticize the Fed, but to want to end the Fed. Just a few weeks ago, Rick Perry said that Ben Bernanke has almost committed treason. Now, if you watched my other video, Rick Perry's not a conservative, you'll know that I'm not a fan of Rick at all. The man will do anything it takes to get elected, even if that means changing political parties, which he did. Rick Perry may not be sincere in his comments, but it's a good sign that monetary policy is becoming a key issue in 2012. In the last debate, they even asked about monetary policy. They asked Newt about auditing the Fed. He supports an audit, of course, because it's politically popular. Then they asked Rick Santorum why he didn't support the gold standard. His answer made absolutely no sense. But I'm so glad that they are starting to ask these questions. A lot of people, myself included, think another round of quantitative easing is on the way. Don't let the fancy name fool you. Quantitative easing, in plain English, means that the Fed will print even more money out of thin air. What could possibly go wrong? Well, for starters, it could set the stage for hyperinflation. The American people are starting to catch on, so they may call it by another name, but the results will be the same. QE1 and QE2 failed, so you'd have to be insane to believe that QE3 is the answer. After QE3 fails, and it will, we might as well expect to see QE4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 until our dollar is literally worthless. The Fed has been forced to open the books 2 times this year. They were court-ordered to release documents back in April because of the Freedom of Information Act. It was a long 3-year court battle with Bloomberg News. The Fed was desperate to keep their records hidden from the public. The 20,000 pages of released documents revealed that the Fed had loaned to a bunch of foreign banks during the height of the financial crisis. The Bank of China, a bank in Ireland, even a corporation that was part-owned by the Central Bank of Libya at the time. The first ever audit of the Fed was conducted back in July. The Dodd-Frank financial overhaul law called for a one-time, watered-down audit of the Fed. The audit revealed that the Fed had loaned $16 trillion to corporations and banks from around the world. To put that number into perspective, the U.S. GDP is only $14.12 trillion. The watered-down audit was better than nothing, but a lot of stuff was still off limits. We weren't allowed to look at certain years or how the Fed determines interest rates. The Fed is more powerful than Congress, but has less oversight than even the CIA. Imagine what we would find out through a real audit that is conducted on a regular basis. Ben Bernanke is looking a little more scared nowadays. He must know that the calls for a true audit are growing louder and stronger. Nothing should be off limits. An audit is just the first step to ending the Fed.